Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to talk about fluxing our lead alloys for bullet casting, both how and why. So if that's something you'd like to know more about, stay tuned. So I filled my pot with range scrap, pewter, and monotype to give me the alloy that I want. Now, if you think about the monotype and the other ingots, ingots like this, those are all covered in oxides. Plus, with monotype, there's probably some remnants of ink. If we are using wheel weight alloys, there might be some iron oxide from the steel clips. There might be road grime and grit. All kinds of contaminants can find their way into our pot. There can also be some iron oxides from the interior of the pot. So all kinds of contaminants can find their way into the pot, and we want to clean our alloy by fluxing it. Fluxing can also help our alloy to blend well, to mix our metals and keep them in one homogeneous blend. Not really sure how that works, but that's what I've read. So anyway, we're gonna let this pot warm up, get our metals all melted, and then we're gonna come back and show you how to flux with a couple different products. Now that that's melted, you can see we've got a bunch of crud floating on top here. And underneath that crud is some nice clean metal. However, if we skim this dross off as it is, we're going to take a lot of lead with it. So we want to flux it, and we're going to do that a couple different ways. First, I'm going to show you, and another part of this is that there's likely a lot of our tin that came out in this stuff here. So by fluxing it, we're going to help that tin mix back in, because we don't want to lose that. So the first way we're going to flux it is with some beeswax. Just a little pea-sized piece here. I'm just going to drop that right in, and it's going to smoke. That smoke may catch on fire, so just kind of stand back. I think that, beeswax smells better than like a crayon or a paraffin candle or something like that, but you can also use sawdust. I prefer pine or cedar, but any of that would work. We're just looking for that carbon-based stuff to flux. So we'll just drop that right in, and it's going to start melting and burning and smoking, and then it's going to blacken and kind of turn to carbon there. And I'm just going to kind of stir that stuff around, and you might be able to tell that the volume of stuff floating on top is less. So most of that now is our contaminants and junk that we want to get rid of. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up and put it in my discard can. And now you can see that what we're left with is already looking a lot better. Normally we would want to scrape down the sides too and stir all around. By scraping the sides of our pot, we're getting any iron oxide that might be clinging to it, any other contaminants that might be stuck to the inside of our pot. We're going to get those loosened up and let them float to the surface. Especially on bottom pour pots, it's really good to scrape the bottom and get anything that might be lurking down there broken loose, so that it comes to the surface. And that's going to look like this little dust right here. A lot of that is stuff that we broke loose from the sides and bottom of the pot. Now we've already got a pretty clean pot here, but just to demonstrate, I'm going to show you another product that you may have seen before or may have heard of. This is kind of an old can here, but this is Marvelux. A lot of people don't like to use this because it's hygroscopic. So it's going to trap and hold moisture. You can see it's kind of clumped up because it's absorbed moisture from the air, and it kind of clumps up. So you've got to kind of break it up a little bit. And again, it doesn't require a whole lot. I'm just going to use about a pea-sized amount. The nice thing about Marvelux, though, is that it does not smoke. I'm just going to set that on there, and it's going to melt. It takes a little while, but it's going to melt and foam, and then that foam is going to blacken. And again, I'm not really sure the chemistry behind this, how it works, but it tends to do a really good job without smoking up the casting room. But like I said, a lot of people don't want to use Marvelux because of its hydroscopic properties. This leftover bit in here can cause your pot to rust. I personally have not had any problems with that in the 10 or 15 years that I've been using one pot in particular. But you know, use it at your own risk. You do the research and decide if that's something you want to risk or not. Like I said, I haven't had a problem with it, but some people have. So the other thing to be mindful of is the stuff that's left over on your ladle, on your scoop, is going to trap moisture too. So when you put that back in, it's going to sizzle, and you want to be really careful about that. It's a good idea to let it warm up on the pot and drive some of that moisture out. In this ladle, you can see there's some junk there, and I'm going to just dip that in. You can see it. You can see and hear it sizzle a little bit. And that's the water that Marvelux residue has trapped. And that's going to sputter. And it can be enough to cause some splattering. So be mindful of that if you use Marvelux. Now, the other thing that some people like to do is leave some flux on top while you're casting. If you're using a bottom pour pot, it's just going to protect the top from oxidizing while you're working. Anyway, I hope that helps clear up any questions you might have about fluxing. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.